This is Mindrolling, and we're back this week on location, and I'm Raghu Marcus.
I'm David Silver. Welcome.
And we had the pleasure of David and I joining a retreat with Ram Dass, Krishna Das, Mirabai Bush, and Sharon Salzberg. And we were able to corral them all into one of these mind-rolling podcasts and had some terrific conversations that I'm sure you're all going to enjoy. The first one is with Krishna Das, who many of you know is the chant Kirtan guy around traveling around the world, and was recently nominated for a Grammy, which is a wonderful thing. And he also performed in the pre-Grammy telecast. So we're pretty happy to have him aboard.
Yeah, on the Grammys, Raghu, it was great because he actually opened the whole show. Because they have two things, really. One's the pre-Grammy, and then there's the one that everybody sees with Rihanna and so on. But the pre-show was streamed live, and it was fantastic to see Krishna Das and his group open the entire thing with a fabulous chant, and for people to be listening. And then David Alan Grier, the comedian from In Living Color, who was hosting the show, came on after it immediately and said, "I'm blissed out." And so I don't know how, I mean, there was a degree of irony there, but it's the Grammys. But Krishna Das et al. were just fantastic in front of an audience that really probably a minute percentage had ever experienced anything like that before. I mean, the live audience in Los Angeles.
Yeah. So we're pretty happy about this, and we're going to get right to it in a minute. But we do want to. We want to thank everybody we've been on for about 3 months doing these podcasts, so it's kind of a brand new thing, and a nice audience has come aboard, and we kind of, feel really like we've got new brethren that we've never met before. So, and sharing our path, our lives with people has been a real joy. And here's we do need support, though. Absolutely, no question about it. It is something that is completely, utterly supported by everybody who listens. And there's a couple of different ways we can do it. Dave, why don't you talk about Audible, audible.com?
Well, one way of supporting us, which is kind of sort of painless, really, is to our sponsor is audible.com, which, as you may know, is the premier, books on. Well, they're not books on tapes anymore. They're, they're whatever they are, however you buy them. But, they're great, and they've got hundreds of thousands of titles, and they support us. One of the ways in which you can help us is that we get a small amount, but a percentage of what you put in for buying a book. So you get a book, and we get a little something. Now,
well, you get a free book.
You get a free book for the first month. In other words, they have a 30-day free offer for everyone, and you can choose from those hundreds of thousands of books, and we'll recommend a couple, but you can choose anything. So you don't pay anything, and we benefit from your interest in audible.com. So you should do that. And I think the URL is what is it, Raghu? It's mindrolling.com/ No, it's not. It's audio.
You're telling me. You're the one who knows. I know from nothing about this.
We are the lamest promoters in the world. I wrote it down. I think I ripped it up. So you can just fire me. Find some God. Really, better person to do
Go
this.
to mindrollingpodcast.com and look at the Audible banner and just click on it. That'll be the best way.
I think it's actually audibletrial.com
/mindrolling.
That's what it is. Let's say it real clearly now. Try again. audibletrial.com /mindrolling.
Thank you so much.
It's okay.
And also, we, of course, have a donate button. So if you want to just throw some money into the old donate button link, that would be great as well. And finally, we are now affiliates of Amazon.com, where you can get anything these days. It's pretty fantastic. So you do have to go to mindrollingpodcast.com and hit on that link to Amazon and buy whatever you want. And we get a small percentage, but it all adds up. And,
buy a Sharon Salzberg book and a Ferrari. then we're done. We're cool forever.
Oh, don't know about that, but
Well,
so
for a while.
for a while.
For a while.
So we thank you for those of you that have gotten around to supporting us, and for those of you who are newly listening to this podcast, we encourage you, if you like what you hear, and to continue with us. It'd be wonderful to have some support. So, without further ado, we will now go to On Location with Krishna Das.
Welcome to Mindrolling. David Silva, Raghu Marcus with Krishna Das. And we're very happy to welcome you to our
empty table.
Charlie Rose type table.
This table is representative of the mind in its natural state.
Okay, enough of that.
Empty
Okay.
and full at the same time.
Well, we got to tell you about mind. We've never even told you what mind rolling. You have no idea.
It sounds like Mindrolling, which
It
is
is.
Yes.
Okay.
You
So
stole it
I'll
from
tell
that.
you the backstory. Although I've told
Do
it
it
a
quickly
couple
because
of
you've told it 4 times in 4 shows.
All right, but
You have,
okay,
you have.
quickly. It comes from I love Kundro Rinpoche, and I saw her Mindrolling Kundro Rinpoche.
Yeah, Mindrolling. Yeah.
Right. But it was mind rolling. I thought,
Yeah.
mind rolling, that's great. David and I are going to do a podcast. And then we couldn't find any, way to find out what were they talking about, what was mind rolling, anything. We couldn't, we looked, Googled, nothing happened.
You found it though. You did.
But
find
eventually I found it.
the
You know what it
garden
is?
of.
The garden of ripening and awakening is the Mindrolling garden.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a large aspiration that we are trying to reach with this. But initially, this whole thing was started because a guy named Duncan Trussell, who's a comedian in LA, said, you guys should do a podcast. And so I've been doing one with Ram Dass, putting his lectures up, talking a little bit about it before and setting it up. And he said, which is the first question, he said there are tons of people in their 20s and 30s that have been interested. He gets about a lot of downloads every week of people downloading his podcast, and he loves Ram Dass, and he includes stuff about him all the time. And he says the feedback that he gets is a lot of young people, although they're not officially on the path or anything like that, but they are wondering how to deal with their lives. That's some of the same stressors that we had. He's always asking, what happened to you when in the late 60s and early 70s? How are you dealing with blah, 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 with some of this stuff in your life? So you get a lot of young people to your concerts and so on. What would you be saying to people as, in terms of real down-to-earth practical, how do I deal with my life every day and the stressors?
Hi, the first thing I tell everybody is you got to find some practice to do every day. Something I tell, if they can even do, if you can, start searching for some practice, which means you have to do some reading and you have to do some research, you have to go out and see teachers, you have to kind of begin to immerse yourself in the stuff a little bit, but to try to do something even 5 minutes a day where you're starting to disengage from whatever is happening, just 5 minutes, turn your phone off for 5 minutes a day. That in itself is a practice for a lot of people. So, because without some practice, we were doing all these practices without even realizing we were doing them. We were doing them because we wanted to, because at that time everybody was like trying to find stuff to do.
Right.
But these days it's not in the culture, it's not in the awareness the same way. Everything's gotten so compartmentalized. This is spiritual practice, and we're not doing that, we're doing daily life kind of stuff. So people have to start just recognizing it's only from doing a practice that you develop the ability to deal with the difficult stuff that happens every day. There's no other way to deal with it. You can understand it, you can therapize it, you can counsel it, you can psychiatricize it, but you can't actually let go of it until you really start doing some kind of practice.
We talked about when we first started Mindrolling podcast series, we talked about what were the things that, began our transformation, either meeting people in the late 60s or hearing music.
We talked about Coltrane and Meher Baba, Peter Townsend,
all of
Beatles a little
all
bit,
of that, yeah.
TM. Talked about all those early things that have been so actually pretty powerful in our lives, even no matter where we've gone. Those were the beginnings for me, I think.
What about
You know.
so music? For me, it was like hearing John Coltrane
yeah.
when I was 15 years old play My Favorite Things. I'll
Right.
never forget that.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we've all been really, intensely associated with music as work and so on. What about you? In those days, did make that kind of impression? Or what were the first? I mean, the first thing I saw was Mayor Baba, a photo saying "Don't worry, be happy," and that led me to really think about stuff from the East and so on.
I was into blues. I was into country blues, and that's how I got my release from things. And of course, the blues is all about suffering and pain. So I got into Buddhism very early too. But actually, it was I believe somebody gave me the Gospel of Ramakrishna when I was in high school, and that. I couldn't. Here I am reading about somebody who's talking to this God. God is like a person. And I was like, "What is this?" And that kind of. I'm trying to think what it was, but really, the thing that changed everything was peyote. The first
That
time I
was-
did
yeah.
peyote,
Right.
all the lights went on, and I went, "Oh,
Yeah.
this is the way things are. I get this. This is fine. This is absolutely perfect."
Yeah.
And then after that, then I got really involved with Buddhism and sitting and practice, learning about all these things because, and reading an autobiography of a yogi, everything was different after that because I saw what was possible. It was my first day out of the house,
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like,
Yeah.
oh wow. And the funny thing about it was, for me, it was, the feeling was, oh, this is the way it is. It wasn't like, wow, this is a hallucination, this is great. No, this is the way it is. I completely believed that was it.
Plugged in
and
there
this,
early.
And this was what I had been living was ridiculous.
And temporary.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
That's pretty early to be plugged in like that, though. I mean,
Yeah.
that before Ramdas. This is before?
17, I'm 17. I took peyote between my junior and senior years of high school.
Really?
Wow. Wow. That's
Yeah,
young.
that is young.
But people do it young now. I mean, I didn't do peyote until mid-20s.
No,
or
wait a
something.
second. No, that's not.
No?
Well, you were in high school, if you remember.
No, it is true. I think that
I
is
mean,
true.
that's unusual.
Yeah.
It might have been right after high school because Andy, my friend, was. No, Andy was a year ahead of me. Andy, who died last year,
Yeah.
Andy Goffman, he was at Adelphi, and Seth was in the southwest, and I was at Herrick's High School. They were each of them were a year ahead of me, and they were gone. So Seth sent the peyote, and Andy and I cooked it up.
Oh, really?
In my mother's kitchen. My mother walks in and says, "What's that?" I said, "Oh, it's an experiment." And she just kept going. It's like,
But you didn't do it with a Native American. I did it with the Bruley Sioux medicine men, and with 400 Native Americans, and we had to take 25 buttons minimum. They wouldn't let us in the Hogan.
Oh.
And they fed it to you at the door. That was my first experience. I went to South Dakota. I lived there for a month with these people. And it was the same with me, except that I was scared stiff a little bit of the time because there were all kinds of things going on. There was this guy called a fire chief, and there was a water chief, and the fire chief blow on this huge fire in the middle of the Hogan with they blow and make an eagle, just like that, right in front of me and Ronnie, my wife. And we all saw it, so it was a shared miracle, if you like.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was very impressive to this moment. I didn't know that about you and peyote, but
yeah, that was the first day. That was before I smoked dope. Before I smoked
Really?
pot.
Even-
Yeah,
Really?
first thing was peyote.
Wow, that's
Yes, I mean, the interesting thing is when we spoke about, okay, what was the market? So we talked about early, music. Dylan for me was a major thing,
Dylan,
and
sure.
of course for all of us, and even Ali Akbar Khan, I actually managed to see in the late '60s by
Oh,
just
wow.
happening into a church in Berkeley, but it was obviously the psychedelic experience that allowed us to see. Okay, yep, there is something that's
Yeah, so I don't know about you. I don't know what young people are going to do these days because the culture is so different. It's kind of now incorporated all that psychedelic information
Yeah.
without the experience.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's artwork, there's psychedelic artwork,
Yeah.
there's all, you know, everything, everywhere you go, that it's
Yeah.
all open, it's all, you know, everybody thinks because they can say it, it is it,
Yeah.
but it isn't.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether people growing up now, it could be they don't need that experience. They're already somehow expanded.
Well,
I doubt it.
the ones that come to Kirtan, Katie. I mean,
Yeah,
most of those.
that's
to
true.
me-
They weren't in
You know.
in the '60s. Nobody was. Not only was nobody singing kirtan, but people weren't going.
No.
So but that's part of that. See, part of that is a result of the information spreading.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and
right,
everybody's.
Yeah.
And it's filling a need. There's no question the need is there. The need's always there in
Yeah.
every culture, every
Yeah.
civilization. The question is whether people find a way to fulfill, you know, that need.
Yeah.
And
What I hear from this, I mean, Duncan is our, you know, he's the guy, well, not just Duncan, but there's other people that have come to us, and they're genuinely, this guy, Jared, all right, our friend Jared, who you
yeah.
met, who's here at the retreat, he is totally into, you know, the psychedelic consciousness himself, and he absolutely, as he said, these teachings, I feel like they're part of me. They have been, you know, something that does, you know, it's. I haven't had to reach for. The one thing that he has had to reach for is the idea of a guru. That seems to be the biggest stopper for any of these people. Talk about that a little bit.
well, really, you know, Ram Dass and I used to talk about it. We used to say, really, the only thing that we're sharing with anybody is our faith in Maharaji. That's what we're really sharing with people. That's all. Everything else is secondary. But what people get from hanging out with us is the way we see the world. And we see the world. This is his show, and we're just actors in it.
Right.
So that's a lot for people to
Yeah.
digest. But people accept that. They feel that. And it's a way of seeing your life. So I don't know what to say about, you know, it's complicated. You definitely, they say you need a guru, but is a guru somebody outside of you? No. You know, a guru is your own intuition, you have to trust your own heart. But that's difficult to do until you have those experiences that allow you to trust yourself. Because we're also carried away by our emotions and our movies and the stories we tell ourselves. It's very difficult to know how to release that stuff unless you've somehow been touched by that love that's beyond all those stories. So, you know, but on the other hand, what are you going to do? Sit in home, jerk off? You know, you have to live. And you have to find a way to live in the world in a good way. And there's plenty of teachings out there. It's not a mystery. We're suffering. That's why Buddha taught about it. That's why Buddha said over and over again, I teach one thing, suffering, the causes of suffering, and the removal, and the removal of suffering. Because you don't need a guru to tell you that you just stubbed your fucking toe. You know? So what in this case the guru is your own awareness, your own understanding. And your own recognition of the state that your life is in. Nobody has to tell you it's screwed up, that you're not getting what you want, and eventually if you start to see you're not getting what you want because of your own stuff. It's nobody else is doing it to you. It's your own stuff. So then you go, now what do? I can't blame anybody for this. So you're forced to finally face yourself, and that's the point where the inner guru is your own true being, which is always here, and which is it's kind of the screen on which your movie is playing out. So after a while, you see your stuff, and you just, how do I let go of this stuff? Well, you're being, you know, human beings experience we experience being pulled into ourselves. The guru thing is funny. When I got to Australia last year, I got to Sydney, in fact. Just before I got there, this big Australian guru, an Australian guy,
Right.
who had thousands and thousands of devotees, and everybody wore white and was so holy and everything. He got busted for pedophilia. And the whole crowd was just like, you know, and a lot of them came to the Kirtan, and I was also doing a workshop the next day. And unfortunately, one of the women who was involved in that scene came to see me just before the workshop and talked to me about all this. So I came out with both guns blazing, you know, and I basically said, you know, Westerners don't know what guru is. You see, we set up these people, you know, who need to be worshipped in order to feel good, and we worship them and we feel good, and we think that's a guru. You know, it's fucking crazy. And I said, you know, we're idiots, and you know, you're hurting right now because of your own stupidity, you know, and your own naivete. Don't blame that guy. You know, he's getting punished enough. So you know, you wanted to love somebody because you don't know how to love yourself, and this is what happened to you. And that's what it is. So, and I guess that seems a little harsh, but it does cut through. You got to cut through the nonsense. Because I see this all the time. You know, people giving they want to love so badly. They want to love. Of course, they're not really letting love in. They're just feeling a little pat on the head, and they feel fine. You know, and they think that's a guru. You know, you know, the real gurus you never see. You never look at Maharaji. Nobody knew about him. The person in the government, in Indira Gandhi's government, there was a huge office, and they were all Maharaji's devotees, almost all of them. But they worked next to each other, and it wasn't until he died that they took his pictures out of their drawer and put it on the thing, and they looked at each other like, "You? Yes. What do you mean? I've known him for 30 years. I've known him for 25." And they sitting next to each other. So the real guys, they don't do any. A real guru does. He doesn't teach. He changes you from the inside. Although he might give teachings, but it's your experience with him that changes you from the inside. Not because he lets you bow and scrape and lick his toes. No, because he makes you look at yourself. He forces you to see your own stuff.
Kids often, not kids, younger people often say to me, you know, they're sort of envious of the fact that when we were in our 20s, we were aware of some real gurus, Ramakrishna Yoga, you know, all that. They were all seemed to pop up with us. Teachers would talk about them.
Now they got all these.
It's not like that now, and it's very confusing. I think it sounds a bit patronizing, but it's confusing for them because there's no, like, I think Ramdas said last year, maybe in the book, that there weren't really any around that he could talk about, and somebody of 25 reads that and goes, well.
Yeah, a lot of people take exception to that, but you know, the proof of the pudding, unfortunately, is in the eating.
Yeah.
And of course, we're talking here with such arrogance about it.
Really.
Like, I wonder what this looks like to other people.
Well, no, but I mean, it's been a long time that at least invested all that time and love in 40 years in it. You get to know your discrimination changes.
Yeah.
I think you're allowed to talk about it.
These people that are coming through that this guy Duncan is talking about, and Duncan himself is a good example. They trust Ramdas. There's a tremendous amount of trust that's gone in there. So Ramdas's guru, that, you know, it obviously just follows through for them. I walked into his house and to do a podcast with him, and there was a big picture of Maharaj. That was the only thing in the room. And he, you know, just he said, you know, I just immediately, when I heard Ramdas, I trusted him, which is no different than any of us, you know, all those years ago. And that's, you know, fortunate for us that you know, that trust was valid, obviously, when we went over there and saw him. So I think that, you know, in this particular case, and you're talking about, we've been talking about Ramdas a lot. We just talked to, you know, a few people here at the retreat, and obviously that's a central thing we've been talking about, that trust and a feeling of safety that we could open up back then, as people are at this retreat, within that feeling of trust and safety. And I think that's a big issue. I mean, not an issue, but without that, I think it's a very difficult situation.
I mean, but the idea of safety didn't arise in those days. Remember,
Right.
we were just happy in that hanging out with him and with the people that we met there. I mean, there weren't all these issues about these kind of like power struggle things. You know, like, am I safe, or can I do this, and is anybody going to rip me off emotionally and stuff like that? That wasn't an issue in those days.
Yeah, no, that's
We were
true.
too naive, I guess. Maybe it was too much at the beginning, before the, you know, the bogey yogis started coming around and ripping everybody off. Maybe it was a little early.
But even so, when you do kirtan all over the world, a lot of the people are very young, from our point of view, 18 to 25 or something. They just get into it, and it doesn't matter. They just love it, and it does something, no matter if they don't even know the word guru. You know, I know, we all know that's true.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely.
People just are.
By the way, I think we're being presumptuous even more. Krishna Das, for those of you who don't know, and I have actually played a song or two of you on the Ramdas podcast, actually, and gone, did anybody know, who doesn't know who Krishna, I go, who doesn't know who Krishna Das is? And a few people, you know, a number of people come up and I send them a song and they're all happy. Krishna Das has been chanting around the world since 1995, 4 or 5, and is someone who a lot of people have come to without any of these trappings of Hinduism or anything whatsoever, any kind of dogma, and which is what he just said, which is absolutely true. They're able to just ride on the waves of the music and the mantra, you know. So I think you need to, before we end our little podcast, talk a little bit about that practice and what it can be, what it is for you and what it can be for people, without having to buy into any Hindu trip or any other kind of trip.
You know, from my point of view, I don't know what it looks like to anybody else, but the way I see it, I just sit down and sing, and Maharaji transmits his presence to people. That's what happens. And people feel that. Personally, I mean, other than the fact that I seem to have to show up and sing, I don't know what else I have to do with it. I just sit down and I sing, but he's the one, he transmits his presence, and people feel it. So, and it's not about being a Hindu, it's not about being anything, you know, it's just about presence, your own sense of well-being inside. He lights that up in people. And that's what happens. And it's a product of the combination of the music and the chanting of these mantras, these names. That seems to have to happen. But it's all his grace, it's all his doing. So, and there's a tremendous hunger for that, you know. There's more people came to sing in Moscow than come in New York. Yeah. And I never been to Moscow. In Moscow, you know, they hear all this stuff on YouTube, on the internet, and they're really hungry, so they're very to come, you know. It's kind of funny. In New York, people won't go from the east side to the west side, you know. But yeah, and my practice is to do it the best I can, whatever that means. To give myself completely to it, to try to make the music as good, at least the way I like it, because I'm certainly not singing to please anybody else. That would be too difficult. So I just sing what I like. I try to please myself, and luckily, happily, some people seem to like it.
A lot of people like it.
Yes, indeed.
Last
smooth segue into
why?
saying what more can we say? you know.
Well, no, I want to know.
Oh, you
one
do?
thing,
You kind
yeah.
of, you've got something to say? Okay.
Yeah. Why are we wearing the same shirts
Oh,
today?
We're really
Is
part
this-
of a cult.
Yeah,
We're trying
we
to
are.
suck you into the red shirt cult.
Yes.
Yeah.
Red shirts. You've heard of the red hat? We're the red shirts.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
After 43 years of hanging out,
Yeah.
it's been good. Thanks for listening, folks, to this On Location podcast that David and I did with Krishna Das. And we'd love to remind you again about supporting. You know, if you like this podcast, and we hope you'll continue listening, you can go to audibletrial.com/mindrolling and get yourself a free book upon subscribing to these wonderful audio podcasts. You can listen to them, audio books that you can listen to anywhere. And also, donate or go to Amazon. All of this to support David's habits.
Yes, my habits. It's not a habit, it's habits. But
Unfortunately.
I might say about Krishna Das that he doesn't give that many interviews, so that was a precious thing, and it's not going to happen every day. So we need help with this because we have to travel and do things, and it would be nice to get some donations, and we don't mind begging because that's the way we will survive and continue to do this for you. All right?
Very good. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.